Hi, this is Josephine Bila from josephinebila.com. I have a really special guest with me today. His name is Jesse A. Saperstein. He is the author of this book called Atypical, Life with Aspergers in 20 1/3 chapters. He is a best-selling author and a motivational speaker. So hello and thank you, Jesse.
Thank you, Josephine. It's a pleasure to be on your show today.
You're welcome.
Wait a second.
What?
I'm not ready yet. I always smell now.
Oh, very nice.
I do this for every interview.
Oh, yeah? Yeah, it's definitely a nice way to introduce yourself. So you write about Asperger's, and I just want to know if you can just tell us a little bit about it.
Well, Asperger's, Josephine, is the mildest and, in my opinion, the most misunderstood and vilified form of autism. It's so mild that it resembles a character flaw. Sometimes a person they seem like a jerk. They're the type of people who kind of blurt out inappropriate things at the worst possible times. They're the ones who will tell the joke about the 12-inch pianist in the middle of a funeral. And, in case you cannot tell by my ridiculous last name, I am Jewish. One time I blurted out, "Merry Christmas" in the middle of synagogue. So that's an example of what I'm talking about. But there's so much more to them than that awkwardness, that inappropriate behavior, and all of the eccentricities. In addition, they're also the ones who will end up pursuing hobbies like Star Trek. I knew a kid with Asperger's who collected TV guides when I was younger. So they often don't fit in. No matter how hard they try, they're kind of like the square peg grinding their way into a round hole. And, of course, these flamboyant differences, they lead to bullying, rejection, and a lot of suffering that, in my opinion, is totally unnecessary.
Is that what your book is about?
Yes, my book is a collection of essays about my life, and some of it is a little bit inappropriate, so I don't know how much I can talk about on the air, but in my opinion, it's very humorous. No matter how sad my life was, I often found humor, and that's reflected in all of my essays. I have an expression: humor is the nectar that we squeeze out of our profound anguish. Mm-hmm. So the essays have to do with my ridiculous stunts to get attention as a child. One time I accidentally flooded my garage with cat poop, to put it lightly. I don't know how my parents survived my childhood. I went through a phase where I spoke entirely in rhyme, and another phase I had a phobia of throwing things out. So one time I filled an entire bag with my cat's leavings, and I stored it in the garage. And one day my family had company, and I heard screams and my dad saying, "He filled that blanking bag to the top." And we had company that day, and it burst open in front of everyone in the house.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I think that, with or without Asperger's, you'll find my experiences funny. And I write this way to kind of expose one inalienable truth. We have so much more in common than different. Do you agree with that?
You and I?
Everybody, you, I, and
yeah.
everybody. In fact, that's why people fear those with Asperger's sometimes. They see all these differences and they realize they have more in common with me than they think.
Yep. Well, I think Maya Angelou says something like, that which is human cannot be alien to me. Something like that. I love
That's
her.
incredible.
Yeah.
I'm a big Maya Angelou person myself.
Mm-hmm.
I use another quote that she says, "When you know better, you do better," and that's a part of my advocacy. It's why I choose to educate the public. Most people are not born malicious. They act that way out of fear, out of self-preservation. So when they learn about my condition, their attitude often changes.
Right. Well, speaking of bullying, like most of my readers know, that I was bullied when I was a kid by teachers, by kids, and now even as an adult, I find that people say stupid things like, So, are you cured of that thalassemia yet? Or, do you still have to get transfusions or something, like that? And it's just like, brother. I don't know if you want to talk out about bullying.
Okay. Do people still say those things to you,
Yeah,
even though you're an adult?
at work. Mm-hmm.
Obviously, as an adult, I'm not bullied in the same way that I was as a child. It's extremely rare for somebody in the adult world to just come up to my face and say, God, you're the biggest loser in the entire world. But I think that I can relate to some of the ridiculous comments you receive. In addition to having Asperger's, I most recently developed an autoimmune condition called vitiligo, where the skin pigment recedes. And as an added bonus, it turns my hair totally white, even though I'm only 30 years old. See? So,
There you go. Yeah, we see it. Yep.
anyway, I often get the most insane comments. The most common ones are, were you using white paint recently? Did you do that to yourself? Are you in a punk rock band? And just the other day at CVS, an employee blurted out, I really think someone scared you bad when you were a child.
Oh, jeez.
That happens all the time, and it does help to find humor in these experiences once in a while.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know that you speak to large audiences of children, and I think in colleges, right? So what do you really talk about, and how do you tell people to overcome bullying?
I think the best way to overcome bullying is through constant education. As I said, when you know better, you do better. And I try to give a humorous spin on that education. I mean, I have this whole box here with props, and I'll take one of them out right now. Woo! Here's the cup and ball. People get really into this during my presentations, and here's another really popular icon in my community, Thomas the Tank Engine. And this says ages 2 and up in this tiny corner. And people with Asperger's, they may take that up part very seriously. So these are some of the eccentricities, Josephine, that we're villainized for. And in my opinion, we're all a little bit weird, and there's no reason for anyone to be bullied. I mean, look at the stuff that's considered normal. Angry Birds, reality shows starring Tori Spelling, The Bachelorette, where about 30 people compete for the attention of one individual, and they get divorced 2 weeks later anyway.
Yep.
Dancing with the Stars, Lindsay Lohan. Oh, God. Oh.
Oh my gosh.
Just so you know, this is also one of my props, and there's apple juice stored in here. My goal is not to promote alcoholism to your mass viewers.
Thank you.
So, as you can see, I try to rely on a lot of humor to make my points and infuse education.
Yeah, well, it comes across very well and very funny. Something that you said before about kind of being a prisoner. Well, like sometimes I feel like I'm a prisoner in my body because I have to go to the hospital every 3 weeks, and I know that I have to abide by this like very strict regimen basically, and I can't travel for weeks at a time because I have to go to the doctor. So do you ever feel like you are imprisoned by the things that you're going through? I mean, what is your experience?
I think with my success as an author and public figure, I don't feel as imprisoned as I used to. What makes me feel the most stifled is ignorance, and furthermore, not being able to let go. Remember when you were young, kids would form clubhouses or cliques, and they'd say, we don't want you hanging out with us, you don't belong. Mm-hmm. And you'd feel really bad, and you'd want to belong just 3 times as much. Well, I have to say I've never gotten over that childlike mentality. So whenever someone rejects me, I feel imprisoned. I've been pretty much banned from being a teacher because people are kind of perturbed by my harmless mannerisms. as well as some of the mistakes I made about 7 years ago when I was not so mature. And I'm not able to let go of that no matter how much success I achieve. So I think that's a good thing and a bad thing for the most part. And with my other challenges, I have a lot of difficulties during transitional periods and with generalization. Like, I automatically assume I generalize very poorly. I think that if something works in one situation, it's going to apply the next 1,000 times. So a lot of challenges and problems are created in these transitions.
Mm-hmm. So you talked about work, and I know that a lot of people with thalassemia often find that, going to the doctor all the time kind of gets in the way of working, and a lot of people have a lot of fear, whether or not they can have certain jobs. So what happened to you during your life and your work experience?
Well, to answer your question, I can sum that up in about 4 words. It was not pretty. So I studied to be a teacher in college. I even student taught at a special needs school in Bath, England. And I entered the real world. I would blurt out things like, "This happens to be a classroom, boys and girls, not a Bangkok brothel." And I also spoke about Eva Longoria one day. I said, "God, look at that chewing gum walk. So wriggly." And so to make a very horrible story short, I ruined 2 careers in teaching and public and human service. So I ended up working 12-hour night shifts at IBM for a while, and I was also a glorified dishwasher. I believe when we first met about 5 years ago, I was struggling. I was in those 12-hour night shifts. So I was able to overcome this by pursuing jobs like working in a funeral home where I had to control myself every single second. So my weakness became my strength, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. And then you became a speaker.
First of all, I think you're very amazing yourself. And I think one of the reasons you've become successful is because you haven't let your weaknesses dictate your abilities. So I'm extremely weak in controlling myself, knowing the appropriate thing to say. And my message to my viewers and your fans is that sometimes you have to kind of bite the hand you're dealt. So I've imposed myself in situations where I don't belong, like mortuary science and so forth. And that's how I controlled my inability to control my big fat mouth. Do you find that sometimes when you want something bad enough and you don't want to let it go, you end up achieving success?
Definitely. I mean, you have to be tenacious, I think, to get what you want.
Exactly. Relentless. I like that word a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. So another issue that comes up in the thalassemia community is dating. And a lot of people define themselves by having their illness, and they feel like it kind of inhibits them from meeting people, and I think they're afraid of showing who they are, and they think that it might get in the way of finding someone who will love them for everything that they are. So do you find that this is the same in your community, and have you ever experienced any issues with dating?
Yes, I have experienced some issues with dating, like all the time. So for my community, that's often a subject that comes up constantly. How do I get a girlfriend? Why don't girls like me? And with me, I ran into a lot of problems because, as I've indicated, I have virtually no ability to let go or move on. Therefore, if I found someone who was not that interested or was sending me messages that they wanted virtually no contact, I would continue to push relentlessly. And that, of course, can lead to things like restraining orders, accusations of stalking. So I was able to overcome this by compromising and backing off and putting something on a back burner. Therefore, if I meet somebody who I want in my life and it seems that they're kind of reluctant, I back off in increments of 3 months to a year at a time. And I most recently met a very gorgeous young woman in New York City, and she's somebody who admitted to me that she was ready to call the police for a long time when I continued pushing and pushing and pushing. So I tried calling her in increments of 1 year at a time, and I told her about myself. I said, I have Asperger's, and I'm sorry if I did anything to make you uncomfortable, but at the time I was doing the best I could, and I'd still like to meet you if you're willing. I had one of the most amazing dates of my entire life where everything fell into place. And if I said something inappropriate or something that could be taken offensively, it was not that big of a deal.
So
I felt free.
That's amazing. I mean, so what advice would you give to someone who, keeps coming up against this issue of dating and whether or not they think that they can find someone?
That's an amazing question, and I think I have the right answer. Mm-hmm. You have to continuously know that you have something to offer and show people, even if they don't want to listen at first. Mm-hmm. But there comes a point where you do have to, I guess, let go or back off. So if you struggle with my persistence, you have to look out for phrases like, I think I have to take further action, or you need to stop, this is stalking. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, it takes a lot of honesty and communication to give yourself a fighting chance when you're dating. So whenever I talk to a woman who I wish would give me a chance, I tell her, if something's bothering you, you really have to tell me. I don't get the message all the time, and I cannot fix it if you don't tell me what you're unhappy about. Mm-hmm. I want to do what I can to make you happy and as comfortable as possible.
That's great advice, I think. And I completely agree with you, actually. So what's in store for 2013? Is anything, do you have any books on the horizon?
My goal is to continue what I'm doing, inspiring people, and going on my second skydiving jump.
That's awesome.
This is part of my anti-bullying campaign, Free Falling to End Bullying. So I'd like to continue lecturing about tolerance, mercy, and ideally acceptance. But my main goal is to start working on my second book, and it's titled Transitioning to Success. So the goal of this book is to help shape society to give my peers a fighting chance. I want to create programs that will help with employment. So if they ruin their lives like I did for a number of years, they won't have to work as hard as I have to earn their lives back. Mm-hmm. They can, I have an expression, without redemption, consequences are absolutely useless. I'm just tired of seeing my peers fail and eventually give up. And worst of all, succumb to those disability payments when they're not disabled. They're disabled by some things like fear and ignorance and failure, but they have so much to offer. And I think that's a good message for all of your viewers, Josephine. I agree. When you're struggling with something, whether it's beta thalassemia or Asperger's, you have to impose yourself and your abilities, and the right people are going to listen. The ones who don't, it's like that Dr. Seuss quote, those who mind don't matter. Those who matter don't mind.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Well, that was an incredible... Exactly. That was a great interview.
You didn't do it right. You have to do it like this.
Oh, like that?
Your hands upward toward the ceiling.
Oh, all right.
Okay, you'll get better.
Thank you for teaching me. Now we're doing hip-hop lessons.
That's right. You're a jack of all trades on Josephine Bila.
So how can people find you?
By looking up my website, jessesaperstein.com, or my YouTube channel. It's www.youtube.com/Jesse Saperstein. That's one word.
Awesome. So check him out. What were you going to say?
You can pick up my book at any Barnes & Noble, and it's even been translated into Dutch within Amsterdam. Hey, did I write you a message inside that book?
You sure did.
Do you want to show it if it's appropriate? I, I said something about you being a beautiful vampire, right? Because you need blood to exist.
Exactly. And you're a blood donor, so props to you.
Yes. I donate blood once every 2 months, and until I met you, I never really saw who the blood was going to. I just assumed it was somebody who had an accident and needed it within seconds.
Yep, so we can all love Jesse even more for that.
No, you are the individual whom we must love even more.
Well, thank you. So this was really great, and thank you so much. And everybody just check him out, and you can find me on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter, Josephine Bila, and I'll see you soon, okay?
Thank you so much, Josephine. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.